these are a difficult time. We have a very interested show this evening. Go ahead, Dr. Payne, you have a thought?
Yeah, one of the things that make it a difficult time is that we're not listening to what is going on. Mm. We're not paying attention. The people in responsibility is not paying attention to what is going on, and that causes chaos.
I mean, I believe one of the issue when you have conflicting messages coming from the leaders of the country and the leaders of the state, it trickled down to the people, and that it is my humble opinion that that's one of the biggest issue that we have. In it's not that we are not aware of the reality, but when we have conflicting information coming on from top, then it ricochet and cause negative effect.
And not only conflicting information, but not believing the correct information.
Yeah,
that's correct.
Because you don't respond properly when you don't believe the information.
And that's why this show is here, because we believe that God have given wisdom to our scientists. And so as such, when our scientists speak and act, we follow them when they're walking in the path of the knowledge of God. And so a part of this show is to encourage us and to help, to remind us to be vigilant, remind us to understand that this virus is serious, is deadly. So in fact, we have a special guest with us, going to be joining us in a few minutes from here, going to give his testimony. So without any further ado, I'm going to ask my friend, Mr. Okeke, to share with us a few words, and then I am also going to ask him a few questions. So good evening and welcome, my friend. How are you, Mr. Okeke? How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I don't usually do this type of things, I'm a family man, but I don't usually get, too involved with, organized anything, but because of the relationship I have with Owen, that's why I agreed to do this. So, so you bear with me, I'm speaking right from my heart and my brain, from what I know happened. Because I don't know if Owen told you guys, I also actually contracted the COVID. It did happen to me, and the first time that he asked me to talk, I said no. I told him I'm not interested. I don't, But then he said that I should share, my testimony as far as what happened to me with other people who it might benefit. That's when I figured, okay, I understand that, So I will speak from a nurse's kind of direct care, because I give direct care to patients who have COVID, and I continue to do so. Even though today it's not as bad as it was 2 months ago, the first time this happened, believe me, I was afraid. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was afraid. Today we have a lot of recovered patients. Even most people that are positive right now at my facility are non-symptomatic, so they don't have any symptoms, So a lot of people recover. Some people they get it again, but they don't have symptoms, which means that they probably have immunity to the disease now, including myself and a bunch of people who take care of the people in the facility. So for me, obviously we know it was about, I don't know the exact date, but probably a little, maybe 10 weeks ago, that pretty much at this point, it was like it got really, really bad, and I had a meeting, not just me. We had a meeting at my job. If people come in, we put them at a specific unit, and then we could send them to the hospital if need be. But I can tell you this from personal experience, that that's not what happened, and it was sad. I cried tears, believe me, when I showed up to work and I see people. And in fact, let's say this, I could tell you this absolutely, that COVID affect mostly elderly people, and mostly people who have like a comorbidity, which is like a pre-existing condition. And I can also tell you that is mostly male.
You said mostly male?
Mostly male. Mostly male symptoms are worse. Like I said, I'm as close as you could get to somebody who took care of a lot of people before they even go to the hospital. And even the people that I know, I have a coworker whose dad was in ICU or was intubated. And a lot of people that I hear that their parent, dad or parents died at the hospital, it's mostly male. I don't think I've heard anybody tell me they lost their mom or their grandmother or anybody. And even like coworkers that I work that are a little older, maybe in their 60s, whose husband is also in their 60s. That's a couple that lost their husband, you know. So I'm just talking as far as just observation. I'm not making any I'm not saying that I've done a research to tell you that this is what's happening. I'm just telling you from what I saw. Okay, what I see right now, it's mostly males that die from this. And also in my facility, we have people who are permanent residents that died. There are some women that have died. You know, don't get me wrong, the women have died from it, but majority of them are men. And men also get it worse when it comes to the kind of cardiovascular and respiratory problem. What I saw a lot of women that have it is that they will get really aggressive, angry, and confused. So a lot of times for symptoms that I've seen with a lot of the older women that get it, they get like basically short tempered. They just, you know, that you could see that they're just angry, you know, and it also makes people confused also, but also especially a lot of the symptoms that I've seen on the older women is confusion and anger and mostly in the elderly population. But for the most part, if you are under 60, and you're in a relative good health, not perfect health, because nobody really in their 60s or 60 in their 50s is in perfect health, because our body is like a machine that after a while there's a tear and wear on it. So nobody will be in a perfect health. But if you're in a relatively good health, you know, you see your doctors. And this is one of the things that happened to us, because I've seen a lot of, especially when it comes to Black men, you know, a lot of us are dying much younger because, you know, yes, we have a society to blame for all that stuff, but also ourselves to blame because we don't see the doctors as much as we should. You know, we don't do that. And then I'm going to encourage you, Owen, that you incorporate that into your preaching, you know, to make sure that people that you know, that you talk to, that you spread that. They have to start going to the doctors. And there are a lot of stuff that can be easily fixed, and you don't have to die. Believe me, you know, especially, you know, the heart problems and you know, the prostate cancer examination. There's stuff that are all treatable. You could have a long life. There's no reason not to, you know. And I see this, and it breaks my heart. You know, every time I see people that don't take care of themselves. You know. So anyway, back to the COVID. I will say also for me, about 2 months ago, is when I contracted it. I got it pretty fast. I mean, you know, I got it very, very fast because, again, I work directly with COVID patients on the floor, and no matter how much you cover up, you know, there's still stuff that happen, you know. So I know I worked through it for the most part. I did, you know. It wasn't until probably when the last day I worked 7 days straight. That seventh day, I was you know, the symptoms that I had was it began with me getting like really bad stomach ache. You know, I'm a coffee drinker. I drink coffee all the time, every day. But then I started getting stomach ache. I'm not normally a tea drinker. And then I started drinking tea because my stomach was hurting. I never really, it wasn't one of the symptoms that they said. It was usually like you have to have fever, coughing, and maybe shortness of breath, and some mostly sort of your respiratory issue related. But then, like by the second day I go to work, I mean, I bring my tea, and then everybody was asking me, why are you drinking tea? It's usually coffee. By the second, third day, I started getting this bad headaches. Of course, I attributed that to coffee, because anybody who knows a coffee drinker knows that if you don't drink coffee for a couple of days, for a while, you get a headache. That's part of the kind of symptoms of not drinking coffee, because coffee is a dilator. It dilates your vein, which allows blood to flow, so you don't get headache. Believe it or not, that's why there are some medicine that have coffee in them. So I'm like, okay, what's going on? But then it was like really sharp. I mean, and a lot of time I would take ibuprofen, and when I take it 100%, it goes away. But it's not going away. I got this headache, and then I end up getting fever. I get fever. I got 103 temperature, which is pretty high. And I remember, because I was already taking like Tylenol and ibuprofen for my headache, and then I had a fever of 103 after taking Tylenol, which is crazy, So I'm now thinking, well, maybe is this what's going on? I have body pain. You will have body aches, everything. Like I think that, and again, just don't take this as a direct, scientific quote or whatever. But again, I'm just sharing my own experience. But I think, and it's just an opinion, that the COVID itself actually makes almost every single weakness you have in your body much worse. Because I remember, like, my knee, I played soccer all my life. So my knee is, both of them are like, they're really bad. And then I remember feeling this sharp pain on my knee, like somebody was literally like taking a saw and just saw my knee off, So everything, like again, I'm also somebody who tend to get headaches every now and then the headache was so much worse. Like everything, I have a patient with Alzheimer's that it made their Alzheimer's, forgetfulness much worse than it is. And it takes a while for that to come back. And then the other thing that happened, I was like, my taste bud was terrible. Everything tasted nasty. It smelled crazy. It smelled like, and when I do eat it, it makes my belly hurt. I mean, it was bad. And then I end up losing like more than 20 pounds because I went like 5 days, almost didn't eat anything. I have my wife. I mean, she was here helping me through the whole thing. And she was basically getting all kinds of food for me to eat. So. And I could have lost weight more, and then I kind of forced myself to eat, Now, luckily for me, I didn't get, so bad where I was unable to function, It was just the symptoms that were bad, but I was able to still walk around, and not get, kind of bedridden. Like one day, I think, and mind you, I worked through a lot of this stuff, But one day, I was on a Sunday morning because I worked that night. I come home. I felt, that's when, like the evening, that's when I felt the shortness of breath. When I took a deep breath, it hurt. And that's usually where a lot of people panic. I remember walking around and I was scared. I'm like, oh my God, what if this just gets worse? Like, and then I can't breathe, I remember going outside. And it was cold at that time. I was able to breathe, even if it was hurting. I will encourage you, if you know anybody who's ever got this, just don't panic. Take deep breath. It's gonna hurt you, but let it power through. Let it go inside and then out. Take it and let it go. It will feel better. I felt better after that. I went outside in the cold and I was there for like 20, 30 minutes, just taking deep breaths and come back and I was okay. But by the next day, that one, I felt better. The lung issue didn't last as long. Even though I still felt something for another week, it slowly kind of come back, but it wasn't as bad. So I can even say that my symptoms, even though I experienced a lot of it, was still mild compared to people who were intubated. I thought about going to the hospital, but I didn't go. And the only reason I thought about going to the hospital, I'm like, if things were to get worse, I want to be in a hospital where somebody can help me, So I thought about it, like maybe I should go. The only reason why I didn't go was because I was taking care of COVID patients. And like I said to you before, that I cried tears. I was sad because we weren't doing anything for these patients. When I walked in there, there were some of them are asymptomatic, which means they're not showing any signs. They just tested positive. Some of them just a little bit. They have the fever, the temperature. It's not like 101, 102. We give them Tylenol. No, they're fine. They eat. Most people lose their appetite. Like most people, if not, like if you have 10 patients with it, 6 or 7 of them will just barely touch their food. 6 or 7 of them, that's a major part of it. Now, so we weren't doing that, and then there's ones that are just suffering. I was watching the patient just like, and they will hallucinate, they will have nightmares. The elderly, mostly the elderly. Just what I'm saying is like refer that know that a lot of my patients are elderly. So people like usually over 70, And I had the first patient that I lost was 78 years old, and he was just shaking. And I'm like, I was asking my bosses, like, what are we doing for these people? They said, no, the doctors are not doing anything. And we're just going to just wait till they pull through. We could give them water, but some of them are not eating. They're not taking anything, and then we give them Tylenol for the headache and stuff. Now, and this is then. Now, today, there's a little better, they do a little better, in addition to if you're certain age, we try to get you to sign off, or at least your family member, to do a DNR, which means that we can basically ease your suffering by giving you morphine and Ativan to calm you down, so you can basically die in peace. This is a lot of things that we did, So I didn't go to the hospital because I'm not, they won't let me walk around. They won't let me do anything that I'm doing now. So that's why I never did. But again, thank God, I have my wife here who is also an RN at the hospital, so she's both my wife and also a nurse herself. She help me, take care of me, and then, get me, I take some vitamin C, vitamin D, Tylenol, and I drank a lot of orange juice and just trying to move around, walk around and do all kinds of stuff. I think for her, I mean, it's a miracle that she didn't get it because we were here together. We have 2 bathrooms. My children, they have their own. I avoided them. I wore a mask when I walk around the house, just basically to, go somewhere, and then back. I use one bathroom, both me and my wife share that bathroom, and then the kids share their own, they can, interact. So even though I'm telling my wife, I'm sure you probably had it, it's just that, you're young and you're a woman and, she has a little aches here and then, but nothing major. I'm like, you probably just didn't have, major symptoms, because some people don't. So you also have to know that most young people, especially people, under 50, under 40, they tested a lot of people and they found out that probably 2 out of 3 don't even show any symptoms. And that's why a lot of them are carriers. They give it to other people, but they don't, they don't have it. And people walk around, they don't want to have a mask in their face because they think they're not going to get it. But the reality is that you may already have it and you're giving it to other people. The mask is supposed to protect other people from you. So when you sneeze or you cough, it contains it inside. It's not, and then other people do it to protect you from them. That's what the mask is all about. So in fact, if you're not wearing a mask in, crowded place, you're not helping, So I know people think that it's not really happening, but I can tell you that it's happening. I can tell you that it's happening in my facility. In addition to the patients that were lost, that because we are what they call a COVID-19 facility. So which means we actually take patients who maybe go to the hospital and they recover a little bit, and then other facilities also send us their patients. So we take them in, and we lost a lot of them. We lost probably 50% of them that came to our facility. We lost, and And some people came from the hospital and they feel better and they still die and they don't send them. And most of them are elderly. So just so you know, I don't think, I lost anybody that is under the age of, I would say, 60. A couple of people died. So in my facility, we have residents that live there. They've been there for years, some over 20 years, and we've lost about 18 permanent residents. And this is a reality within a month or so. That is not normal. To lose your residents. We're a 130 bed facility, and to lose close to probably around 15%. And we are lucky. There are facilities that lost more than half.
Wow.
More than half of their facility, which is crazy. How do you lose residents like that that lived there for such a long time? And a lot of us, some of the deaths hurt like hell, because this facility, I worked in this facility for about 10 years. There's people who have been there for 30 years, 20, 25, and they've known these residents, for 20 years, 25 years, and they work with them every day. That are devastated because they're part of their family. I have residents right now that, you cry like when they die. I'm sorry to say that, yes, you don't cry every single one of them. There are ones that are closer to others, just that life is, And when you lose 18, then something is not right. This is not fake. Some people think, oh, it's fake. No, it's just that people don't always be around elderly people to be able to witness this. But I witnessed it and I see them, But then we also lost a lot of people who are not our residents who just came to recover. We probably lost maybe another 15 or so, So the death is real, But I think that people need to be worried. They're worried more about their elderly parents and grandparents and try not to expose them to this, because a lot of them with pre-existing condition, and most elderly have some sort of pre-existing condition when they're in their 70s and their 80s and 90s, So you have to be very careful. Try to keep them safe. If you go out, protect yourself, and then protect them, Or a lot of stuff is going to happen. Some things that we don't want to happen is going to happen. So I thank God that even though I got it, I survived it. And then also thank God for my wife here taking care of me. So, and taking care of my kids, because I couldn't interact with them myself when I was sick, So she was doing all that stuff, shopping, bringing food, like there's a lot of shortage in everything. So she have to drive around the state to find paper towel and all this other little meat, So, thank God for that, So, I want to, Owen, to, help thank my wife for me, and then also thank God for me. Okay, I'm grateful. I may not be, devoted like you in church, but, I have my beliefs, and that belief does include the belief in God. I don't practice like you every day, and I'm just glad that, things worked out for me,
Mr. Okeke. Yes. I want to let you know that we truly appreciate you being here. I have a few questions for you, and I'm sure some of the people on the panel and some of our audience will maybe have a question or two for you. One of my questions I would like to restate to you, I think we have talked about this personally, but you mentioned having the COVID, and could you share a little bit more? How do you function during those time you had it to protect your children and your wife, to make sure that you didn't spread it among your children and your wife?
Okay, well, that's a really good question. Like I said before, I just said it, I'm not a religious person. Okay, I'm not a religious person. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I am a believer of God and things greater than me. Okay, so there's nothing that you can do 100%. I believe in science. I believe that science, if you research something and then you do the right thing, it will help. But I don't think that nothing is 100%. So your faith itself have to play a major role. Okay, so you do what you're supposed to do, and then you leave the rest to God. So here's what I did. Okay, as far as my kids go, my kids pretty much found out what was going on immediately, because when I put a mask on to walk around the house and I see them coming, I will stop and they will look at me. And if they try to walk towards me with mask on, I don't even want to speak, because I don't want anything coming out of my mouth, even with mask on. I will do this to push them back, and then I will wave them off. My kids are 9, 13. My son turned 13 2 weeks ago, and then 15. So they're old enough to understand when I wave them away what it means. They don't need to ask me any question what. So I'm like, and they understand. They know what's going on. I wave them away, and then once they move out of the way, they will look at me and they see the mask, and I will walk straight where I'm going, and then I'm in. Oh my God! Now to think of it, we had the bleach wipe everywhere. I have it in my hand. I put the hand sanitizer on. I wipe the door before I open it and after. I wipe everything as I go. So that much I just didn't interact with my kids. But my wife, on the other hand, if I'm a betting man, I will bet that she got it. I just don't know how she couldn't have. We have a king size bed. I have my own sheet. She have hers, and she's on one side. I'm on one side, but I don't have a mask on when I'm in the room. Nobody can wear a mask 24 hours a day. That's nuts. So I have to take it off so I can breathe. So we talk, we have conversation, we talk, watch TV together, we're here. So I don't know how she didn't get it, but again, if I'm a betting man, I say she did. She just, it wasn't that bad. There's a lot of people that get it, that it doesn't affect as much. That's what I will, if I'm gonna put money on it, I will put money if she get tested. She either will be, probably have the antibody, which is one of the tests that they do to check if you've had it or not. Wow. So that's what I would do, and then even before that, still today that I work, when I leave to go to work, I wear my socks out the house, I wear an undershirt, and then I have my scrubs on, and then, okay, my socks, and then I walk out the door and get in my car. I have my shoe in the car. It stays in the car. I put my shoe on, and then when I come home, I leave my shoe in the car and then walk out with my sock. Outside my house, I have a plastic bag that I take all my clothes off, and put it in the plastic bag. And then I only have pretty much my boxers on and the undershirt that I put on to go to work. And then I take my socks off too. And then I have a hand sanitizer that I use, and bleach wipe that I wipe basically everything that I can wipe down. I wipe my keys on and stuff. And then I come inside the house barefoot and underwear and a shirt, and I go straight to the laundry and I throw everything right inside the washing machine directly. Nothing touches anything, before I go to the bathroom and clean up butt naked, basically, so again, that's the best that I can do. Nothing is 100%. So that's what I do. And then, God help with the rest.
Wow. Does anyone have any question for Mr. Okeke?
Yes, I have a question.
Sure.
My husband's grandmother, she lives in Florida. She was just diagnosed with COVID-19 and she has Alzheimer's. She's not having any symptoms right now, but I guess my question is, if she's not having any symptoms right now, is it a possibility maybe she may have symptoms later?
Yes, unfortunately, it is a possibility that she will have symptoms later. You know, but like I said, what I've seen a lot of women didn't. I haven't seen them get that um, kind of severe respiratory problems where they're in bed and they can't breathe and all this other stuff. What I've seen, most of them, and in fact, I'm struggling to actually remember seeing one single female elderly person have respiratory problem. I don't remember seeing any, you know. So, but what I have seen, a lot of them, they get confused. You know, some of them have Alzheimer's and it get worse and they get more combative, almost aggressive. You know, they will fight and they will
Right.
not eat, and they will not eat. That is the worst thing, because somebody's older, they need to eat,
Right.
they need fluid to be sustained. So I've had
Mhm.
patients who they put a feeding tube on and they did well, and then they will
Okay.
DC it eventually, you know. So I don't know how old she is or what the family
She's
plan.
83. She's
83, okay.
83 and she was already in a nursing home. So she, I guess, picked this up from the nursing
Yeah,
home.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
Her and a friend, a close friend of hers that's there at the nursing home. They just both tested positive. They're not having any symptoms. But my husband did tell me because she has Alzheimer's and I guess the stage that she is in, she's a runner. She runs,
Oh,
so they have to keep her locked down. So right now they have her tied down.
oh
She
yeah,
is
yeah, that's
restrained
what
right
happens.
now.
Yeah, yeah. And that's probably for her own safety, as long as
Right.
they're making sure that, you know, they go in and make sure that she's okay. Somebody still interact with her, get her food and stuff like that, so she's not kind of they don't cut off blood circulation or something that could happen. Then that's fine. I think it's good news, because I've seen that happen a lot. And in my facility, I don't know if I would say good or bad, but we don't do that. We cannot tie people
Mm-hmm.
down. So what ends up happening is like a
Right.
lot of these people will fall. You know, they will get up and they will fall, they will get confused, they'll walk around, and they could injure themselves if they're not, you know, secure. You know, so I'm actually happy to see that, you know,
Right.
if they're doing that in a safe way, to just like do that, so for our own safety. Is she eating though?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. She's in Florida, so I'm just getting information as it comes.
Okay.
Like I said, I just found out that they had her tied down. So I
Yeah.
just heard that today.
Yeah, that's probably because she's becoming combative and she could be in danger to
Right.
herself as well. So yeah, I
Right.
see that
Right.
happening a lot. So the only other concern that and that confusion, you know, unfortunately, I've seen it happen. But I don't know what stage of Alzheimer's she is. I see it happen, and it lingers for a while. You know, it lingers for a while. But what the only concern that I will have is her nutrition. You know, if she's getting nutrition, they can also do IV hydration.
Mhm.
You know, so
Mhm.
you can have, you know, call, or your husband call and ask them, you know, basically what their treatment plan is. Because
Okay.
unfortunately, in this country, period, when you're a certain age, you are
Mhm.
expired. Do you understand? So all they
Right.
worry about is just to make sure that, you know, your transition to the other end is peaceful. You know, and I'm sure they already call the husband if the mom is not already DNR, and call to ask for that. I know as Black people, we don't like that. Do not resuscitate, because that's, we think it's just a permission to let us die. You know,
Right.
so I think they already
Right.
probably asked for that. Um, that's basically, that's a family decision. I don't know, you know, what, you know, the plan is, if they're just gonna say, okay, let's, you know, just watch her. Because if she's not eating, you know, you can actually go weeks without eating. but you cannot go more than a week without drinking anything. You know,
Right.
so they have to look into hydration, and there are just different types. Some also is a supplement. So that's what I will be concerned about, and just give her a chance and see if she will come out of it. You know, but wow.
Yeah, they're supposed to be testing her, I guess, in 10
Yeah.
days, to see if it comes back, positive again. But I definitely have him to check into that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that information.
No problem.
Is there another question? Thank you for your questions. Anyone else with any question you'd like to ask Mr. Okeke? Anyone else?
Good evening.
Hi.
Did you take any specific prescription medication to doctors, or did you just use home remedy?
For me, yes, I use home remedy. If you're talking about, I didn't get any prescription because they don't really have anything. What actually kills a lot of people is outside of the damage done to their body by the reaction of the immune system. And I'm sure we all know that what really hurt us in life, unfortunately, is our body trying to fight off a foreign object that is inside. Believe it or not, it's almost like you have an alien invade the United States, and then the governor called the National Guard, the president called the army, everybody starts shooting, and then there's crossfire, there's a confusion. And that's actually a lot of things that happen to us. All the bleeding and the respiratory issues is a reaction from our body, to fight this stuff. That's what makes us sick, believe it or not. So a lot of things that you do is just simply, so some of us don't have that hyperactive reaction of our immune response, and that's what saves us, and that our body can also sustain it when it do happen, because when your body is already weak and then it's getting beat up by your body trying to fight, then you have no chance. But they've found that a lot of vitamins help, like zinc, vitamin C, vitamin D, all those things that really help, fortify the body and help fight. They have Prevenil, which is hydrochloroquine, that stuff, I know people who they prescribe that for. I mean, I've watched patients, some of them can eat, they even have it on IV, and a bunch of them died anyway. I see them, they died. So I don't know if any of those things help. And they also use something called a Z-Pack, azithromycin. Azithromycin is an antibiotic because sometimes what happens is like you get pneumonia when you have, fluid in your lung. And when this stuff attack you, it goes for your respiratory system, your lungs. And when that happens, you get fluid stuck, and then you also get lung infection, which is pneumonia. So the pneumonia itself is also part of sometimes what also kill people when you don't treat it. You go systematic, you get sepsis, and you die. So even this guy I'm talking about, he got it. He got the Zithromax, and it still didn't help him.
For sure. Is there another question for Mr. Okeke? Any other question?
Just a follow-up question for you, Mr. Okeke.
Okay.
After having COVID, are you saying that you can be reinfected with it, or you're saying that you seem to be immune from it?
Okay, that's a good question. So again, so let's put it this way. The COVID-19 is a new virus, right? But we also know, viruses are not new. We also know how viruses work, right? So the thing that viruses do is to survive. That is literally the job of a virus. There's a difference between a virus and a bacteria, right? Bacteria is a living organism that can survive. It need a damp one place to survive where it has like a little thing that it eat nutrition and it'll be able to survive. Viruses, on the other hand, in fact, there's a debate whether viruses are alive or not. Viruses is like a little machine that doesn't have a powerhouse that actually allows it to metabolize nutrition. So viruses cannot eat and survive. Viruses need a human or animal, but basically an animal cell to survive. So if a virus doesn't have a body to attach itself, it will die. Some of them live a lot longer than others, but it cannot survive alone. So it needs your cell. It just literally takes over your cell and forces your cell to reproduce other viruses. That's a survival mechanism. And that's why they also mutate. So they change, because once you learn how to treat it, or your body understands it, it will change into a different form. That's why we don't have really cure for AIDS, for example, because some of them are slow in mutation, some of them are fast in mutation. Like a cold virus, there's no cure for cold, but luckily colds are not that dangerous. But cold, our body fight the cold, it develops immunity to it, but it lasts like literally a month, and there's a new strain of a cold virus, then we keep getting cold. Something like the flu, we could get up to like 6 months to a year immunity to flu. That's why we get flu vaccine every year, because it mutates too. Now people are saying that this COVID-19 is closer to the flu, because they do have the SARS that came up a few years ago that is similar to that. You may have about, maybe a 9 months to a year immunity, 6 months to a year immunity to it. And then that's why they're predicting that in the fall it might come back. So people who already had it and perhaps have some kind of immunity, they probably might get it again, or until we get a vaccine to kind of work on it. So it's something that we don't know. But what I can tell you is this: I can tell you with almost absolute certainty that if you get this COVID-19, it is unlikely that you will get it again within at least the next 6 months to a year, because I've had it, and honestly, after I got it, I wasn't being as careful as I used to be, and there's a lot of people who had it that are a lot worse than me that are not being careful, that are not getting it again. And there's people who test positive again, and they've done a research that that show that even though people test positive after the second time, they haven't had anybody who got sick from COVID and test positive the second time that got sick again. And we've had like a few months of history of this to know. So I can tell you, if you get this stuff, it's not likely that you will get it again within a few, 6 months to a year. So they have to figure out, they don't know yet how long the immunity lasts, but you do develop some kind of immunity to it. And then don't forget, it can also, it does change its strand. So.
Mr. Okeke.
Yes.
There are people believe that this virus was created in a lab. What's your take on that? I'm sure you're not a scientist, but based on what you just explained, do you have an opinion on that?
Well, yes, I do have an opinion, but the thing is this, and it's interesting that you said that, because I've had that conversation with my wife. She tends to sort of believe that there's something going on. I'm the kind of wait and see type of person. I'm the type of person who will say, okay, let's do the research, let's find out what's going on. And it could be created in the lab. I don't know. I'm not here to say no, it didn't happen. But what I can tell you is this, okay? When you look at what happened with the COVID, you have to realize that there's nothing about this disease that is unusual. Do you understand? There's nothing about this that is unusual as far as human history with viruses go. Viruses, we know that viruses exist, We know that viruses was here a long time ago. We know that viruses are gonna be here a long time from now. We know that they've been around. You know, some of them are dangerous, some of them are not. In fact, the thing about viruses is that some of them affect humans, others don't. There's something, I don't know, let me see the best way that I can use to describe it to you. Okay, so in order for human beings to get sick from viruses or bacteria, there's something that called a lock and key system in biology. Lock and key just simply means if you take a key and you try to get into a lock that it doesn't belong, you're not going to be able to unlock it. So the right key have to fit the right door to unlock it. This is how the human protein system works. We have a protein, all over our body protein that make up our nostril system, our respiratory system, you know, our circulatory system. There's protein that build all this stuff, and they all have a lock system. In order to affect them, you have to be able to lock in, to open it and change it. You have a skin cell that rebuild. You have a lock system, the protein that have to enter that skin system and make new skin and all this stuff. So a virus is like a key. So here, for example, your dog cannot get AIDS because its lock is different from the key, which is the AIDS. If you take an AIDS virus and inject it into a dog, it won't get sick because it can't fit. So a human body is the same way, you know. But what happens is that because viruses change their strain, because their survival depends on it. So they will keep changing the lock, and try to fit it into the key. They will keep changing the lock, Eventually, when it's changed enough, it will fit a human protein system and then infect us and make us sick. COVID-19 didn't used to make us sick. It didn't used to make us sick. And this is one of the reasons why people say, oh man, they did it in the lab to now make us sick. But that's, maybe it's true, I don't know. But we've had a history of viruses because that's what they do.
I want to follow up on a question. Knowing your family structure, correct me if I'm wrong here. I know one of your uncle is a scientist and also specializes in developing medicine. I'm not sure if
Uncle John. Right. Yes.
Have you have a discussion with them in respect to this virus probably being man-made, or do you have a conversation with them?
Well, okay, that's actually interesting that you asked that question because my mom just sent me a video. I have two uncles who are scientists, and one of them is a pharmacologist. He make drugs and stuff like that. And then I have another uncle. The first one that I mentioned is more of a political guy. He moved back to Nigeria and tried to go into politics. He put a video up about the G5 or 5G and all that stuff. But my second uncle is actually an epidemiologist. So this is the study of disease and infection control. This is what he does. He works for the United Nations. He's a professor of epidemiology. He worked directly. In fact, when this started like a couple of months ago, he was sent to China, you know, and the whole family was against it. They didn't want him to go. And the wife is a medical doctor who told him flat out, I don't want you to go. And he is like in his 60s, you know. Everybody was scared. In fact, I remember living in Nigeria a long time ago in the 80s when the AIDS came out, because he's been doing this for almost 40 years. He worked for the United Nations for just as long, you know. He went when we didn't know. We were all crying like, oh my God, it's gonna die. He went to Congo and all these African countries, and this is what he do. He goes around. You know, we can't wait for him to retire already, you know, because it's very stressful to the family. So there was a video that he put. If I find it, I will send it to you, Owen, and then you can share with people that you want to. Where just like this, it was a similar video conferencing with another guy that interviewed him about it, and they asked him about what he think about the conspiracy and all this other stuff. It was like an hour video, which I didn't think I was gonna watch, but it was very interesting. So I watched the whole thing, and he talked about it. So you can decide for yourself. So, and I think he did say something about similar to what I'm saying, which means that we do know about this viruses, what they do, that they mutate and they do all this stuff. So nothing that he's doing is that crazy for us to think that somebody did something special. Again, that's not saying that nobody did. We have to be careful and keep paying attention to what's going on around the world. But at the same time, nothing crazy is really going on. We've had the Spanish flu, 100 years ago, so it's not, it's similar, and it happens. It's just that, in fact, to be honest with you, there is a possibility that in the near future, we're going to have a virus that is a lot worse than this one, that is going to come out. There are millions of viruses out there, millions. Most of them don't make us sick, We get them, they live in our body. We have thousands of viruses that live in our body, that live in the surface. They're everywhere. I'm not saying it to scare you or make you panic, live your life, as much as you can. But one day, one of them is going to mutate, to become that dangerous, And I think that we just have to be, very careful. And we go into politics, when Obama was in office, they thought about this stuff, and they put a committee in place to try to get some of this stuff taken care of. But when Trump came in, he dismantled most of this stuff. He dismantled it. He's like, okay, well, we don't care about this stuff because it was done by Obama. He want to destroy Obama's legacy. That's what his interest is. And this is hurting us now. So we just have to fight back. There's nothing that you can do. It's part of.
I have one more question for you, and then if the audience also want to ask, I'm going to give you an opportunity. What from someone who in the medical field, and you've been personally affected by this virus, and also given your family structure that you have uncles that are professors and study diseases, and so you have a rich history. What would you say? How would you advise us in a specific and more precise way for us to live our life even amidst this disease? And even more specific question: what makes this virus so unique in versus those other viruses that's out there? Maybe let's focus on this question. What makes this COVID-19 so unique among all the other viruses that you have highlighted, that there are plenty of different viruses out there?
Okay, all right. Well, that's a good question. And I kind of think I know what you were trying to ask in the beginning. So what I will say to you is this, okay? And I'm going to answer the question that I think you're trying to ask me before I say what makes this unique is that, and I think that, how do you behave and take it with all this information, everything going on and stuff like that? I will say, listen to your doctor and listen to science. You will know when science is going too far. You will know. You know what I mean? You will know when it's gone too far, where you can say, okay, wait a minute, but you also know when it's telling you the basic stuff, and that's where the doctors come involved, and you know what works. And so do pay attention to those people who is their job, and they have gone to school to study this things, listen to them. And I think that's what you're asking. And then live your life the best that you can and love those who are around you. And that's all I can do. I mean, you can't live like a prisoner, there's no point, right? Do what you gotta do, So now to answer your question as far as what makes this unique, okay? What makes this virus unique is two things. Viruses spread in different ways. There's something called an incubation period for a virus. An incubation period is the period from which you contract the virus the first time when it enters your body to the time which it makes you sick. Okay, and they say that COVID-19 have a 2 to 14-day incubation period. And that's what makes it dangerous, because say, for example, you get a virus, sometimes you contract something, within a few hours, you're feeling sick, or maybe by the next day, you're feeling sick. Now you know you're sick, you could stay home, you don't go to school, you don't go to work, you don't go to church or something like that, you seek out, okay? Because the COVID-19, the coronavirus, takes a long time before you show the symptoms. Sometimes you've had it in your system for 7 days, 10 days, and you're contagious. And then you go around and spread it. That's what made it spread out so much, that people didn't know that they have it, and they're spreading it. So thousands of people have it, and they're spreading, and they don't know. By the time they get sick, it's too late. They already spread it. That's why they tell people, quarantine yourself for 14 days. Because what they say, they do that because they figure after 14 days, you don't get sick. That means that you may not have it. And of course, they test you after the 14 days also. There's no symptoms, there's nothing, then you're good. Okay, so that's why it's unique. And then it's also unique because, you know, other viruses, yeah, you get sicker quicker, right? And also because we don't have a known cure and even a known treatment for it. You know, if you get the flu, even if you don't have vaccine for the flu, you know, they give you antiviral medication. A lot of viruses, we have some kind of treatment for them that will stop you from being able to transmit it. And then actually eventually it's your immune system that eventually will fight it off. You know, it will take away all the struggles and all the other symptoms, like, you know, the headaches and what have it, and then keep you alive long enough for your immune system, if you have, you know, some, to come back and just take care of this stuff, and then, you know, develop an antibody, and then you'll be okay, you know. So we don't have any known cure, pretty much any known treatment to kind of mitigate the serious symptoms, you know. We just watch you. We do what we think we know, give you pain medicine and give you stuff to help you breathe. And then eventually, if it's not working, you know, stick a tube down your lung to help you breathe, you know. So that's why it's so unique. We don't have a cure. We don't know how to take care of it. And it's scary, you know. So we have a medication way of saying people wear masks, stay home, you know, if you don't have to go out. So this way, what we need is time. And once we have time to study the virus, and then we have time to come up with treatment, to come up with cure, to come up with possibly vaccination, then people can, you know.
Appreciate the answer. Is there any question for Mr. Okeke from anyone else?
Yeah.
Pastor Bojan, you have a question?
Yeah. We got a lot of conflicting reports about this COVID-19. And you just spoke about what your uncle did and his research. I'm listening to one guy who says it is not a natural virus. He specializes in epidemiology, all of this kind of stuff that affects the lung. And he says, this is not natural. The natural virus affects one part of the earth and then moves to another. This one survives in all kind of a climate, all around the world at once. How do you think about that?
Well, okay, so you know that hepatitis is a virus, and you know that AIDS is a virus. You know that cold is a virus. In every country in the world, they have all those viruses.
Yeah, but they come at different points. They don't come at one time, hit all the places in the world at once. Because this is hitting everybody at the same time, everywhere around the world. Don't tell me that there's somebody from China, at Wuhan, China, who came to the United States, who came to Jamaica, who came to Africa, who came to to Russia at the same time. I can't accept that.
Right. Okay, so, well, if you have somebody who come from China and they come to the United States, right? United States, which is basically the center of the world, right? And then the viruses start going around. There are people who go from the United States in other countries. This is what you call pandemic. This is what happens on a pandemic when a virus goes around. We know this happens. We know this happens. If you spread it, and this is the thing that, this is why, because the incubation period of this in your body is so long, you know, it doesn't go away that quickly. So you spread it to the next person. Viruses doesn't really care what part of the world that you live in when it get into your system. You know, it doesn't care. It doesn't matter. Anybody who tells you that doesn't know what they're talking about. It doesn't care. Now, what you can say is that some viruses do live longer under certain surfaces when they're the outside of your body. So if I were to sneeze on the table and it's hot outside, it may survive only for an hour before somebody touch it, right? If I'm somewhere that is cool, it's colder, which is why we get the flu during the cold time, it will survive longer. It wouldn't die. But when you have a virus that is transmitting around so fast and we don't have a treatment for it, this happens. Do you understand? If the flu doesn't spread around as much, because when somebody gets the flu, we find out about it quicker. And then we isolate them, we isolate ourselves, and then we start treating them, and they stop being infectious. Right now, we don't have any of those. This is why this is spreading the way it is, because we don't have any control over this virus at this time. You know, now this isn't to say nothing crazy is going on. Believe me, I'm just simply telling you what I know about how viruses behave. Because somebody have created this show. They could have. I don't know that. I'm not there. You know, but is this virus really doing something that is so crazy that it's like, oh, what? I don't see that. Just me. I don't see that. It is behaving like a virus behave. You know, people sneeze in your face. They don't care. It doesn't matter how much, what the climate is. Once that virus enter your body, most human body have the same temperature on it. It's about 98.6 degrees. No matter where you are on this planet, it will affect you the same way. You know, and when we're not being careful, it happens. You know, that's all. That's why I think this is being transmitted. And I always question people, and I say people who think that this virus was meant to maybe hurt people. I think that there are stuff that are more dangerous than this virus. It's killed a lot of people, but we have like, what, 8 billion people on this planet? And it's killed like more, or a little over 1 million? You know, this virus, and it's already kind of coming down. This virus is not gonna touch anything as far as it being this crazy thing to kill people. No, this virus is not, it's not that dangerous. I mean, except if somebody basically saying, well, let's try to thin out the old population. You know, like, I don't know what old people did to you for you to want to do that. You know, there could be a lot more dangerous stuff that they could be putting out there if that's the case.
I agree that there may be a lot more dangerous stuff is coming around, but in your lifetime, or in any of us lifetime, have you ever studied about any virus that created a lockdown on the world? That is, I'm not supposed to be closer than 6 feet to somebody else. That is, if your wife gets sick and you took her to the hospital, you couldn't go in. And people just die from it. And I know why they die, because they don't have any cure for it. They don't have anything to mitigate what is happening in the human body at this time. So the only thing that they can do when you get to the hospital is watch you die. So nothing like this has happened in 1918 when you had the Spanish flu. More people perhaps died than this. But at the same time, it was not something that closed your churches, closed your clubs, closed any place where you could get together, close up your family even from you, so that if you had chosen to go to the hospital, none of your family could come, nobody would see you, you would die, they would just disappear you, as though you never existed. You're all alone. So that's my concern about this. What is it so different about this than the previous flus that you've had? And why does the political people say, well, it's maybe in the fall it will disappear, or it may come back greater?
It may,
if it's going to slow down because it is now summer in most parts of the United States, it's going to slow down. Why is it in Africa, where the temperature in Africa, the mean temperature is about 60 or 65? You see, that's where the conflict comes in my mind. The normal viruses, we say, well, they proliferate more in the cold climate because it is cold and the droplets does not melt, disappear as fast.
Yeah, they survive longer,
Yeah, but this thing is going across all temperatures at the same time.
Yeah.
That's not normal. That's not a normal virus. A normal virus travels from one region to the next. As the temperature is dropping, yes, it gets more people, it kills more people. This one doesn't matter what temperature you're in, it gets you. Jamaica, or mean temperature in Jamaica is 60 degrees. They are presently in Jamaica, and we know where it came from first. It came from the UK to Jamaica. There's presently 559 cases with only about 9 deaths in Jamaica.
What do you think it will take for somebody to create a virus that is able to do that? If viruses naturally are not supposed to be able to do that.
We'd have to ask the president, because he knows more than everybody else.
Yeah. You see, whatever
answers he gives would be the right answer.
Yeah. One of the things that I think that people have to understand, I think that we give too much credit to man.
That's
ability
true.
to do things, both good and bad, right? So we give them too much credit that they can take care of all our problems and needs, right? But we also give them too much credit by saying that they're these super powerful, brilliant people that can do crazy things to hurt us. In either way, we do overboard. And that's part of the reason why I don't always believe that people are capable of creating this amazing virus that do other stuff. I don't necessarily believe in it. But again, viruses can affect you no matter where you are.
And that I agree. It can affect whoever you are, wherever you are. But it seems to me that some of what is happening is sort of either gender specific or ethnic specific. And you mentioned about that, and we look at, you can go down to the grocery store now, if they haven't, buy a watermelon without seeds, or eat a grape that never have any seeds. How does that come about? Somebody sat down and modify the genetics.
That's true.
That it doesn't produce seeds.
I want to interject for a second. While there are facts on both sides, we don't have the conclusive answer for that. And Nurse Okeke is a nurse and is not a scientist. So I want to kind of move away into another direction in terms of, because those are valid points. And there's a valid point for Pastor Baldwin is saying, and the answer what you're giving is also a valid point. But because we are not scientists and we don't have a conclusive answer here, I would like to stay in what we know. In for example, how did it affect your body? And as we bring this to a close, so what I want to ask, Mr. Okeke,
Yeah.
tell me about how the virus let you feel within your body, within your in my conversation with you, you share that it let your nose, it affect your nose, your throat, and it take away your taste. Talk a little more about that for us, please. How you let you feel in terms of your body, your physical body.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to talk about that, but I want to say something first before I go into that. I go to that because I think that the good pastor here is it's right that there's crazy things going on that we don't understand. Okay. And I agree with you, but just like Pastor Owen said, there are a lot of stuff that we don't know, and we have to stick with kind of what we know, and then move on from that. I've had this kind of conversation with like people before in the past, as far as what's going on. Was he created by man, and this and that? And my question is always to them, it's like, okay, so what do we do now? Even if we accept that it's happened, what do we do now? Do we all go to Washington and form a circle and demand that the president come out and answer? There might be a different reaction if we did that. So I get all that stuff, but again, Owen is right. Like, let's do what we can to help each other and try to get through what we know that is happening. My thing that I always say to people is that, because there are people who actually take this further. There's people who say, oh, nothing is happening, it doesn't exist. There was a time when me and my wife was having a conversation. She didn't say that this didn't exist, but somehow I misinterpreted what she said as that this isn't happening. And I flipped out. I'm going to confess that I was screaming at her. I'm like, I live it. I go to the nursing home, but I see people die. I see them shaking, except if I'm having some kind of a terrible nightmare. This is happening. So there are different levels of that. Some people say, so I'm glad that we at least agree that this is happening. It's a matter of why and who is behind it. That much I don't really have much answers, for how to solve that problem. But the symptoms of COVID-19 is different for everybody. In fact, probably I think more than half, if not way more than half of young people that get this illness doesn't show any symptoms at all. At all. They don't show any symptoms. Nothing. It's just like when they tested people. In fact, they did a test in New York where they tested for antibodies, and they found out like that possibly 20% of the entire city have had it, which is crazy. That's like, how could that be possible when you're recording that maybe only, maybe close to 200,000 people or 250,000. It's like, that's not half. That's not 20% of the city or of the entire state. So they say like there's a lot of people. And in fact, they did a specific test. I don't know if you remember this story about a Navy captain who got fired by saying something about the COVID-19. And then, of course, the secretary of the Army who did the firing also had to resign, because he sent an email saying that they're not doing enough for the sailors in the ship, that they're not helping them out. They say, oh, you're trying to embarrass them or whatever. And they tested them, and they found out that something like, I think more than half of them had it. And also 60%, if not more, I think 60%, I remember the word number, 60%, didn't show any symptoms at all. But of course, people who are in the military, in the ship, they're usually young, These are people in their 20s and 30s and maybe a few in their 40s, so they show. So as far as the symptoms, don't sit there and think like, oh, you're going to get the symptoms. I think a lot of women don't get symptoms. A lot of them don't. Even a lot of women in their 50s and 60s, a lot of women, a lot of young people under the age of 50, 40 don't get symptoms, or again, they will get a little bit of symptoms that could be anything, they could, and the symptoms range from,
Mr.
from
Okeke,
diarrhea.
as we're coming to an end here, tell me, give us some specific now about personality. How does it affect you personally in terms of, in the summary, because we're concluding right now and I want to bring it home specifically, uniquely to you, your personal experience.
Okay. How did it affect me? He's talking about my
physically, your physical, how does it affect you physically?
Well, I mean, as far as we go right now, I'm pretty much back to normal how I was before all this started. But for me, the last symptoms to come back, and again, I discovered that on a lot of people, is your tasting and your smell. That's the last thing that came back. That took a few weeks. A few things will taste a little better. One of the things that actually tasted okay from day one was orange juice. I don't know, maybe it's my body, because orange juice is high in vitamin C. Maybe my body said, okay, you really need this stuff. I was drinking a lot of oranges, eating a lot of orange, so maybe those things that are really good for you is not suddenly the one that you have the taste for, but everything else was just disgusting. It tastes horrible, so orange juice was good. And then, but everything else, like I said, I had my knee problems, that I had knee issues. I had a lot of body pain. I was very tired. When you barely walk up the stairs, you're huffing and puffing like, oh my God, I'm so exhausted. You want to lay down and just get some rest. And then, you get rest, you feel better. But then you do just one little thing, you get tired. It was crazy. Even when like I said, I worked through this when I was working. I will just be exhausted. I'm sitting down. I'm like, when is this gonna be over? I remember the first day that we started this, I was the first nurse to work on the COVID unit. Mm-hmm. And in fact, it was so bad that I did not have a relief. Nobody came to relieve me. Everybody was like, no, we're not working. So I ended up doing double that day that I didn't plan on doing. I'm like, I said, oh, I thought you were supposed to stay. I'm like, okay, but people finally stepped up, and in fact, twice that happened. So it was scary. It's not as scary right now. And I could tell you, it's not as scary because a lot of people have survived it. A lot of people didn't get sick. A lot of people, got sick and got better. So for me, I feel good. I feel confident that this is gonna pass. That we're gonna be fine. I worry just a little bit. My worry really goes out to people who have elderly parents with some pre-existing condition that may be the victim of this. And I've had older people. I have a 95-year-old lady that had it and survived.
Here's another question. How did you deal with the mental fatigue? How do you overcome the mental fatigue?
Oh, wow. That's a real good question. Oh, my God. That's a real good question. And I'm going to tell you this. There was a story about this lady. In fact, it was on the newspaper up here, some publication. It was a nurse that contracted the illness. And when you contract the illness, you go home, you have to stay home for about, 2 weeks. I was out of work myself for about a week and a half. And that's usually because I was already 6-7 days into it. But this lady, she was home and she was going through it. She was a nurse and she lived with her elderly mother. Okay. She was that? taking care of her grandkids. Yeah, and the mom was helping take care of her kids. Okay, so because when you're sick, obviously you can't go close to your kids. So she isolated herself, but then she panicked. Just like I told you guys, when you start having this breathing problem, when it happened, you start taking shallow breaths, like you panic, because when you breathe deep, it hurts like hell. Like your chest is gonna crack if you breathe any deeper. So you don't want to do it. So you take shorter breaths to make up for that lack of oxygen. Okay, and that's when people panic. So this lady, she panicked, and she started running downstairs. I guess maybe to go outside or go call ambulance or go to the hospital, whatever. But she fell, and she hurt herself, and she was bleeding. And her mom, being a mother, her natural instinct was to rush and take care of her daughter. And she went and held her. And then, unfortunately, the mother contracted the illness. And really, to make the long story short, she didn't make it. Okay, she died. And this woman, she said she can't forgive herself. Okay, and she was like really devastated, you know. So that's one of the things that she said. And if you've had it, you could tell to people, panicking is something that might happen when you do get that serious part of it. And we share stories at my job. A lot of nurses who went home, who had it, they would say, oh my God, this happened and this happened, and their husband got it. And this, you know, a lot of people, they say that it's terrible, you know, that they're feeling what they went through, you know. So it's to deal with it, it's what we're doing right now is to talk about it. You know, to really answer your question, is to talk about what happened, and then people can share the experiences, and then you can, you know, learn from it. You know, that's the only way. That because when I went to work, I'm like, I can't wait to call and tell people my experience and tell them, hey, you know, this is what you should do and shouldn't do. You're gonna panic. I felt anxiety.
So you believe this is a healthy forum?
I absolutely believe that, you know, that you were right. The fact that I had to share the experience 100%. And that's the reason why I agree with it. And I think that that is a positive thing to do. That is good. People, you know, need to share the experience so other people can learn from it.
And so how did you overcome your mental fatigue? What are some of the things you did to overcome personally?
Talking to people, sharing my knowledge on what I know that happened to me. And I slept. I mean, most of the time when I was sick, I just laid in bed and got some rest. Rest is absolutely the best remedy for everything that we do. You know, when we're old and we work so hard, rest is number one. You need to rest, you need to sleep, you know, eat healthy. And that's how. That's my belief. That's what I did, you know. And then also because I have my family around me, you know, my wife is here. We talk about it all the time, constantly, you know. So I'm not sure.
My final question to you. I heard other people who had it said that when they were breathing, their chest become very tight, and it's as if there was a 10-ton brick lay on their chest. Did you have those symptoms?
Yeah, I heard that too. I heard it from my coworkers who got sick.
But did you experience that?
Not to that extent. What I experienced, I felt a lot of pressure. But what I did experience is when I tried to take a deep breath, it hurt. Do you understand? Like if I'm trying to expand my lung by sucking oxygen in, it looks like I feel like my lung is kind of it's almost like it's like a fibrosis is forming, like it's hardened. That if I expand it in my tear right through it, I felt a sharp pain in my chest, in my lung. I felt it. So when you try to take a deep breath, you feel that it hurts, like somebody's cutting you with a knife on the inside, and you stop. And then you stop breathing. You slowly, you know, like that's what I'm trying to say. Like when I did that, it's when it happened to me on a Sunday night. I remember that. I remember going outside because there's more rich oxygen in the cold air. So I powered through it. I took a deep breath, even if it hurt. I did it, and that's my advice to you. If it hurt you, screw it, do it anyway. Take a deep breath, slowly, but a deep breath. Take it all the way and hold it, and then exhale and do it again and again. And for me, that's what I did. It hurt from the beginning, but the more I take deep breaths, the less it hurt. And then luckily for me, that only happened one night. Because by the next morning, after I was outside in the cold, taking deep breaths for 30 minutes, I felt better. I came in my room and I slept. And when I woke up the next morning, most of that pain went away.
Could it be that because knowing you're a pretty healthy person, you always eat right, and so could it be because you always been a healthy person, play soccer, while it didn't affect you as bad as it does other people?
I will go on the limb to say that it's not only is because of that. I guarantee you that's what kept me alive. I'm also relatively young. I'm not a baby, but I'm 45 years old. And I'm not the healthiest person in the world. I mean, I need to lose weight, but and I work a lot. Okay, and one of the things I noticed is that the more I work, in fact, I had a job. I used to work 2 full-time jobs, and about I would say maybe 2 months before that, I discontinued that one of the other job. It's a job that I had to drive an hour away to work. I stopped doing that. And at that time, I was getting only 1 to 2 hours sleep a night. And I used to catch cold every second. And I'm a healthy person. I don't get sick. I'm like, why am I getting sick every song? And it will last, it will linger. But once I stopped that job and I started getting sleep, I felt better. You could be hearing Owen from my sister that, oh, Owen, Chuck died. If I still had those jobs. So I think it's by the grace of God that something happened that I no longer had a job. Because if I was doing that and wasn't getting sick, getting rest, and my immune system was so compromised that it was, which I knew it did, I wouldn't have made it. But I had that 2 months to catch up and rest that I was able to go through it. So yes, my age helped, was a little younger. And then the fact that I've also been playing soccer all my life. And then to confess to you, Owen, probably within the past almost 10 years, I haven't done any meaningful physical exercise. So even to the extent that I had that, it's even the lack of me exercise, even though I stand up all the time when I work, but that's not really a real exercise. But I get up and I move. I don't lay down all the time, So it's a combination of all those things, So I would say get healthy, quick. It will help you.
I appreciate that. Well, hey, is there any?
I got a quick.
Sure.
I got a quick question.
Sure.
Hey, Chuck. It's Noah. How you doing?
Hey,
yeah. It just occurred to me, like you say that, because this is a virus, it's like the cold, it's like the flu and all of that, right?
Yes.
So does that basically mean that it's inevitable that at some point everybody's going to get it? Because of the fact, at some point in life, everybody gets a cold. At some point in life, everybody gets the flu. So does that mean that at some point, everybody's going to get COVID?
Wow, that's a real good question. It's a question which I don't know if I have an answer for you. But the thing is that the cold virus, we don't panic, and this is one of the things that happen. We don't panic when it comes to the cold, So that's why a lot of people get cold. Like if people get cold and they sneeze, it's in their hand, it's everywhere, they shake hand, they touch people, they spread it very easily everywhere. And people don't necessarily die from cold. The flu is a little less because I've had the flu, and I think I've had the flu only once, at least that I know of. And I felt everybody. If you had the flu, you know how the flu feels. You have this body aches, and you do get some fever. So I've had it, but I don't know if I will say that everybody have had the flu. But because it comes around every year. it's a chance. So if people if the COVID-19 come around again and again and again, yes, eventually it's likely that everybody will eventually get it. But if it doesn't, then, because we can eradicate diseases, right? It's like, if you isolate people enough, like if I get COVID-19 and isolate myself for 14 days and it goes through my system and then it goes away, well, I cannot infect anybody with the COVID-19. So if everybody is well, and nobody has it, and it's not being, incubated somewhere, then nobody will get it. But unfortunately, it's somewhere at all times. There's somewhere that this virus is existing anywhere. So we just have to get immunity to it, and that's pretty much it. But you're right. That's eventually, if it stick around long enough, yeah, just about everybody will get it. I believe that's what viruses do. They'll fight. They fight to survive. We just have to fight back.
Okay. All right.
Is there one more question from someone who have not asked a question, would like to ask a question before we conclude? Well, my friend,
Yes.
I am so glad I convinced you to join us. And I think you end up concluded in the end that it worth your time. And truly, I have been personally blessed. But I don't think it's just me. I think this entire audience and those who also will be listening to it on the various social media platform, I think they will find this very interested as well. So on behalf of all of us here at FSM Daily Digital Show, I want to personally thank you for doing this for us. I'm just for the audience sake, Chuck and I and Janal, they just asked the last question. We go way back. As he mentioned early on, that we did a lot of disagreement. We had a lot of disagreement and various discussion. Many of our discussion was around the subject of God. And he had his own view, I had my own view, but over the years, I have seen Janal grow. I have seen Chuck grow. I've seen them grow from strength to strength. In fact, just today I was poking fun of Janal, saying that, listen, a man by who he married, and I was referring to President Obama. That he thinks he's black because he married Michelle, a black woman. And I said to Janal, listen, that you're a Christian, you have a Christian heart because you married Christians. And likewise is Mr. Okeke. Both of them married Christian wife. So that speak of who they are. And I always tell him that the time will come when we will get together and preach the gospel all over the world. And this is the beginning. So today is a fulfillment of my humble prophecy. And that at this time, you're not allowed to say anything else towards that. But with that being said, I just want to thank you, Mr. Okeke. I truly appreciate it by being here. You've been a blessing to me, as I said, personally. You have been a blessing to this audience. But I have one question, and my following question to you before we close and before Mr. Martin sing for us. Your wife, I know your wife is beside you, and she is a nurse, and she has been the one that also taking care of you. Would your wife like to say something? If she said, I would love to give her the opportunity to say something if she so chooses.
I personally, I never had any symptoms of the COVID. Basically, just fear is not a good thing. Don't be fearful. That's my advice to people. Don't be fearful. Just be safe. You wear your mask in public and wash your hands, and just be safe. Just be careful. I when I was taking care of Chuck, we were together, And I felt we needed to self-isolate together because I was exposed to him. But fortunately, I did not get sick. I don't know why. I do take a lot of vitamins. I do meditate and pray. I wore my mask when I could, and if I, touched anything that he touched, or anything like that, I would hand sanitize. We cleaned everything we touched. And yes, there was some fear of me getting it, but I didn't let it overwhelm me. And like I said, I meditated and I prayed about it, and I made it through. That's my advice. Don't Fear is the worst type of stress that could be damaging to people. So that's all.
Indeed, I want to thank you very much for even sharing and giving us those advice. And I want to let you know that I really admire you and appreciate you and just standing by your husband in this difficult moment. And I just would that we truly appreciate you.
Oh, thank you, Owen.
All right. And one of the things that we want to do before you leave, we want to have a word of prayer. It is our custom each evening that we will pray for our nation. And yes, Chuck, I want to admit to you that we often pray for you, even when you were going through the illness, your sickness, while your sister did not disclose the detail of what's going on. But I think she hinted that something was going on and asked us to pray for you. And we were specifically pray for you and your wife and your entire family on this program. So the fact that you're here is a testimony that God have answered our prayer on behalf of you and your family. So we just want you to know that we're praying for you while you're going through your difficulties.
Amen.
Thanks for that.
Yes, you're welcome.
I'm only human. I'm just a girl. Help me believe in what I could be and all that I am. Show me the stairway that I have to climb, Lord, for my sake. Teach me to take one day at a time. One day at a time. Jesus, that is all I'm asking from you. Lord, give me the strength to do every day what I have to do. Yesterday's gone, sweet Jesus, and tomorrow may never be mine. So for my sake, teach me to take one day at a time. Do you remember when you walked among men? Well, Jesus, if you're looking below, it's worse now than then. Oh God, they're pushing and shoving, killing and rioting. Lord, for my sake, teach me to take one day at a time. One day at a time. Sweet Jesus, That is all I'm asking from you. Lord, give me the strength to do every day what I have to do. Yesterday's gone, sweet Jesus, and tomorrow may never be mine. Lord, help me today, show me the way, one day at a time. Oh, one day at a time.
Thank you. Heavenly Father and our God, in the name of Jesus, we come before you, recognizing you for who you are. That first, you are the creator of this universe. Secondly, you are the Redeemer. Thirdly, you are the Sustainer. And fourthly, O God, you are coming back as King of Kings to take us from this sinful world. But until then, oh God, we have an obligation to do all that we can as doctors, as nurses, whatever gifts that you have given unto us. And so this evening, oh God, I want to lift up my friend, both of my friend, Mr. and Mrs. Okeke, who have been working on the front line as nurses and have been serving sometime at the expense of their own health. But yet, oh God, they get up and they make their schedule and do what they can do to serve community, to serve our community. And so, Father, we just want to thank you for them. And Lord, we pray for Mr. Okeke on this program, and he's here now to give his testimony, how you have been with him and help him to recover. Lord, I also want to thank you for his wife that stand by his side in his moment of difficulties. We know that we have good wives when we're going through difficult times in our life, that even things that could cause our death or their death, but yet they make themselves vulnerable and serve us. So Lord, in the name of Jesus Christ, I pray that you will continue to strengthen